Hello everyone. Persephone Crestomancy here and welcome back to my channel. So, about a year ago, I posted a video where I made a tier list of every single monster girl from Interspecies reviewers. And that video is a year old now. And sometime in October, I posted a poll asking you guys if I should revise my tier list. The votes are in, you guys answered, and so now I'm here to deliver a revision of my tier list. Or, this is basically Interspecies Reviewers 2 Electric Boogaloo. Now, for those who don't know, Interspecies Reviewers is an adult-oriented anime and manga where the whole setting and plot play out basically the same way your D&D campaign would if all your players were playing closeted bards. As the whole premise is you have this group of adventurers going to various different brothels, reviewing the girls that they have fun with, and ranking them from 1 to 10, with a 0 being an absolute no, or repulsive for short. I think the anime is very fun, and it does actually explore the question of what it would be like to have a relationship with these different monsters. So, I personally enjoy it. I know it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea because it is kind of risque in more ways than one, but you know what? It's harmless fun, and I personally enjoy it. We only got one season subbed, and I kind of wish we could get another season. In the manga, we see the guys go on many more adventures with many other different monster girls, but you know what? The season that we got is nothing to sneeze at, and it does provide us with a slew of monster girls for the 12 episodes that we have. So, here's my revision. Now, before I fully jump into it and sink my teeth in, in my last video, I had a fan of sorts comment, and I'm not going to name names, you know who you are. I had a fan comment and say that I was wrong in where I placed Elsa during my last my former video of this. They said, and I quote, Elsa should have been in the S here, and you know it. And to that I say, you know what? My last video was based off of my personal preferences and what I enjoy. This revision is the same way. I'm ranking and reviewing these girls based on my personal preferences and what I like. And I know that what I like isn't going to be some things that other people like. And you know what? That's okay. We're all allowed to like what we like. There's no harm in that. And if you guys think I messed up in my tier list revision, then I will provide a link in the description below so you guys can make your own tier list and share them. I'm curious to hear what you guys think. So, yeah. For this revision, I will be giving a brief synopsis of each episode. I will review each girl, and for girls who end up on the lower tiers, D, E, and F, I will even point out suggestions on how they could maybe improve their services and, boost themselves higher up. So, without further ado, let's get into it. First up, we have Elves. Now, Elves star in episode 1, and they are caught in a debate that basically boils down to would you rather, in which Sunk, a human adventurer, says that age doesn't matter so long as you look like a piece of eye candy, as he would rather be with a 400-year-old elf. Zell, an elf, and Stunk's best friend and companion on these excursions, argues that age is important and that he would rather be with a 40-year-old woman than a 400-year-old elf. And one of the reasons he says this is because, according to Zell, an elf's mana grows rotten and stale in flavor and scent when the elf gets older. And with humans, their mana never expires this quick because they never age more than 80 or 90. So, on the one hand, trying to give these boys a fair advantage. On the one hand, I kind of get it. I mean, if you are sensitive to mana, mana being a component for magic in this realm, if you're sensitive to mana, then having a partner whose mana is pleasing to your other senses is important. However, as Stunk says in the anime and the manga, humans cannot sense mana, so it doesn't matter for humans. And I can kind of agree with that. Plus, I speak for myself, but the first thing I usually notice about someone is if they're eye-catching or not. And elves, despite the fact that they can live for thousands and thousands of years, they always look like they're young, attractive young men and women of age, which is roughly in their early to mid 20s. And so you know what? I have to side with Stunk on this. Now, I wish we had some more variety when it came to elves in interspecies reviewers, because there is a wide variety of elves in D&D, if D&D is anything to go by. We have light elves, wood elves, moon elves, drow, which are dark elves. We even have tritons, which are oceanic elves. But as far as interspecies reviewers go, we only see wood elves. And you know what? While I do wish there was some more variety, there's nothing wrong with that. Elves, on the wide spectrum of monsters, are pretty tame, and they're perfect for a beginner's first time. Like someone who's just entering the world of monsters and wants to test their limits. And like elves are a perfect icebreaker for them. Elves are art interspecies reviewers, what fighters are to D&D. They're extremely basic, but you know what? There's nothing wrong with a basic comfort character. And I'll openly admit it, I find Legolas and Thranduil from Lord of the Rings to be very, very, very attractive. I would love to go on a date with them. So, for what they are I'm gonna put them in the B category. B for basic, but you know what? Sometimes you just need a comfort character, and there's nothing wrong with that. And I think elves are great for a newbie's first time, just to kind of see what they're into. And next up, we have Mitsue! Good old Mitsue, also known as humans. So, Mitsue was in episode 1, where the first portion of that episode was basically boiled down to the theme of preferences, or would you rather. And Zell said that Mitsue was better because her mana never aged too much. And when it came to, in the episode, she out of Zell plus a few other monsters who voted, they voted that humans were better than 400-year-old elves. Which, again, each to their own, and if you're sensitive to the smell and flavor of mana, then it makes sense that you would want a partner whose mana is flavorful and pleasant to your senses. However, mana doesn't really do nothing for humans. So, she has confidence and she is very experienced, but I believe that everyone has their own personal taboos and lines that they don't cross, and this is mine. If I'm going to be with a human I want them to be my age, or my limit on age difference is 5 years. 5 years older, 5 years younger, no more, no less. Now, what I do find pretty sweet is that in the manga, we actually get the backstory to how Mitsue and Zell met, and it's actually kind of wholesome. But again, despite the fact that she has confidence and whatnot, I'm gonna put her in the F category. Now, the world of interspecies reviewers is full of magic, so there's quite possibly a fountain of youth or age reduction potions that could make humans like Mitsue look younger, like in their 20s. If that were the case, maybe she could use it. I don't know, but that's definitely a suggestion. Because again, my personal preference is I'd rather be with someone who is my age. Or, just a year apart. But I digress. I mean, points for confidence, though. Her confidence cannot be shattered. So, that's gotta count for something. Next up, we have cat girls. Cat girls are another one of my comfort characters, but I mean, they're very wholesome. Well, it depends on the type of cat you get, I suppose. So, in the second portion of Interspecies Reviewers, episode 1, in the second portion of episode 1, we get to meet Krim, who is an angel who breaks their halo and is unfortunately unable to return to heaven until it heals. And so, after saving Krim from a monster, Stunk and Zell then take him to a catgirl brothel where he has his first time with a catgirl. These catgirls are very cute, but they're also very snarky and have quite a bit of attitude. So they're pretty fun though, and what I like about the manga is that we actually see that the cat brothel has a variety. They have more house cat-like cats, and then they have Neko girls who are based off of wild cats. Like Stunk or Zell, I can't remember in the manga, but one of them actually goes with a caracal girl. So as far as cat girls go, much like with elves, cat girls are another pretty basic monster girl, and they're definitely another good icebreaker choice if someone is unsure whether they want to go with an elf or a cat girl. So you know what? I will put them in the B category. They may also be pretty basic, but you know what? Hey, every man and woman of culture when it comes to monsters has to start somewhere. Next up, we have Cecilias, or Dagongs, as they're referred to in the manga and anime. But in the second portion of episode 1, we see Conchel, a halfling reviewer, enjoying his time with a Cecilia girl. I say enjoying his time lightly because when we do see him, actually see him, he's not having a good time. Not in the slightest. He keeps telling the Cecilia girl to get off and that she's being too rough, and we see her, basically use her suction cups as, well, suction cups. And she seems to be just laying on top of Conchel, and she's enjoying herself, and she doesn't seem to listen. So, while she does have a lot of potential, we don't see her actually use it in the anime or the manga. Which is kind of sad because if National Geographic tells us anything, it's that octopi get quite passionate in their lovemaking. Now, I don't know how it goes in the world of interspecies reviewers if the males croak after having snoo. But perhaps there is a way for them to avoid this. Like maybe it's only if they have snoo with their own kind that they end up kicking the bucket. I don't know, but another potential that is unused is the ability of color changing and changing textures, which real life octopi do to avoid predators. And of course, octopi are naturally very, very, very passionate when they're doing snoo. So sadly, we don't see this. Sadly, all this is just speculation and, untapped potential. So I'm going to put her in the E category. And again, what I would suggest is using color changing for to catch the eye of your client. And I would also suggest using her tentacles in a manner akin to as a massage of sorts. Because there is potential there, but again, we don't see that potential use, so that's why I'm putting her in the E category. Next up, we have bird maids. Now, I know some of you are going to probably be asking me, but Persephone, aren't bird maids basically just harpies? And to that I'm going to say, well, yes, but actually no, as the difference is in structure. You see, harpies, rather than having arms, have wings instead. Their arms are basically their wings, whereas bird maids have a set of arms and their wings are on their back. Most likely, if we have to go on a technical detail, bird maids and harpies are essentially close cousins on the avian family tree when it comes to monsters. And we actually do see a harpy in Interspecies Reviewers. Specifically episode 7, which is the egg-laying episode, we see a very, very cute owl girl serving as the receptionist. So yeah, there is a difference. And we also have Maidori-chan, who is the owner of the Ale and Eats. Now, according to Stunk and the Gang, bird maids are known for being very submissive. They're known for being very submissive and very vocal. And if you're into being on top, these are definitely a good choice. And they also have variety. We see various types of bird maids, ranging from canaries to what I believe Maidori is a sparrow of sorts. And we even see penguin type bird maids, which is pretty neat. I wish we could have seen maybe some more raptor bird maids, birds of prey. But, for what they are, they're also a pretty easy. They're also They're also pretty basic. But I mean, everyone has their personal choice. I definitely wouldn't mind having a try with a bird maid or a bird bachelor. But I'm going to put them in the C category. Definitely very cute, very vocal. So you get musical notes and whistles as you're having fun in the bedroom. So yeah, I'm putting them in the C category. Next up, we have Fairies. So episode 2, centered around the theme of sizes. On the first spectrum, on the one side of the spectrum, we have fairies, and on the other, we have minotaurs, but I'll get to that in a minute. So episode 2, you have Stunken and Zell arguing about size, with Stunk saying that bigger is better, and Zell arguing that bigger is not always better, and Conchel, the halfling, arguing that somewhere in between is best. So in order to remedy this and put a vote to it once and for all, we see the gang go to a fairy brothel. And before they can choose a girl, they have to have their instruments measured. Once their weapons are measured, they can choose from a variety of girls. Stunk is only allowed his choice of 2 more portly fairy girls. And Zell gets a little more variety, but Kanchel gets whatever kind of fairy he pleases due to the size of his weapon. Unfortunately, Krim is unable to join in the merriment, as unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on who you ask, Krim is in fact packing a long sword. Let that sink in. Now, for starters, I love that they have the different designs for the fairies. You have fairies that are, more slender and petite, but then you have some more curvaceous fairies, which I absolutely love. And I love the design of Aloe, the fairy madam who runs the brothel. She's definitely very ragged looking, like she looks like she's been around the block a time or two. But you know what? She's definitely got an attitude and she can hold her own, and I love the design of her tattoos. She just seems very down to earth. Like she knows what it is, and I mean, she seems cool. I'd be willing to hang out with her at least. Now, I love the idea of again, having a partner who is, shorter or smaller than you, I'd be willing to try it, but I'd want to be careful because I wouldn't want to, hurt them accidentally. My one and only regret is like, if this is what fairies look like, then what do actual fae folk look like? And when I say fae folk, I mean like, fairies who are as tall as humans, like Titania and Oberon from William Shakespeare's A Midsummer Night's Dream. But as they are, um, I think they're pretty neat. Now, I do kind of see a little bit of the fairy, trickster nature, which is one of the reasons why I'm putting fairies in the sea category, is that fairies are known for being tricksters, and they will take advantage of you if at all possible, because wording and bargains mean quite a bit to fairies. Like, if you give a fairy your real name, then they own you. I kind of see a little bit of that in episode 2, because despite the fact that Krim cannot have fun and cannot choose any fairy woman, he still has to pay the full price. So, C category. They're definitely an interesting option, and sort of, branching out in the realm of the monster pool, as it were. So next up we have milk minotaurs, also known as dairy minotaurs. So they are in the second portion of episode 2, in which the Demon King is trying to get elections. Their lackey tries to persuade the interspecies reviewers to go to the finest demon brothel and to try and give reviews to boost the people's opinion, I can speak, of demons. Unfortunately, the gang goes out and as they are making their way to the demon brothel, they are distracted by the large assets of 2 Minotaur girls and go to the dairy farm. Yes, really, instead. So dairy minotaurs apparently need to be milked. And that is one of the services that they offer, and they're known for being very submissive and kowtowing to their partner's every will and whim. So, it's definitely, if you like them submissive, that's definitely one way to go for it. However, I feel like I could get smothered, or my back might get broken, given trying to hug one of them. I feel like I would possibly get smothered, that's not fun. That's not fun in the slightest, and I'd rather not do that. So it is what it is, but I mean, they seem pretty fun, and I wonder, like, they must have a magic sort of spell that prevents them from feeling pain, or mends tends to the pain on their back, given that they have to support such assets. And this leaves me to wonder what male minotaurs are like, and if the size thing is a thing, then well, I don't know. I would probably break. So yeah, given for what they are, they're pretty submissive, and they're also fairly basic, but you know what? Again, in the wide spectrum of monsters, these dairy minotaurs are still on the fairly shallow end. And if they don't do brothel work, they could also help with milk banks by giving away their milk. They could also work as wet nurses as well. So yeah, B category for the Minotaur girls. Next up, we have Halflings. Halflings star in episode 3, which centers around the idea of what it may be like on the other side, in which our gang of characters take a potion that temporarily turns them into a girl. And it does explore the idea of what it is like for your partner on the other side, which is definitely interesting. So halflings in this realm, they're very cute looking, but they look a little. With Stunk, they look a little too much like little kids. Um, if they look their actual age, that's one thing, but as they are, I gotta put them in like the E category. The only way that I would put them higher up on the tier list is if they actually look their age. Like Frodo and Samwise Gamgee and Merry and Pippin from Lord of the Rings. Yes, it's another Lord of the Rings reference. Hush. But, she knows what to do. She's very adorable, but she knows what to do, and she's pretty experienced. So, E for effort. That's what I'm gonna that's where they are. Next up we have Slime Girls. So, so what I forgot to mention with the halfling is that Canchel, the halfling, decided to go with the halfling girl, and Zell, turned into a girl, went with the slime girl. And slimes are on the spectrum, again, pretty basic in the shallow end of the monster pool, and it's definitely, one way to figure out what you're into. They're known for being very easy on the body, and they can also work themselves into various places. So for what it's worth, I'm gonna put her in the A category, cause I mean, within reason, I'm willing to try anything once. Next up, we have Elsa, the hyena woman. Soza. In in episode 3, we see Krim go with Elsa, the hyena woman. And to his credit, he is the only one willing to experience what it might be like on the other side of the other side. Which, again, everyone has their own preferences. And they do actually go with hyena biology in this. Which, I'm not going to go into great detail over that. Google that on your own time. But they actually do put their research into this. However, I feel like hyenas are hyena folk like Elsa are definitely one of the types that you don't you're not sure, you're hesitant, and they're definitely for some not for the faint of the heart. I feel like, for me at least, I'd probably want to go with a male hyena because, for one, they seem to be more submissive in nature, because hyenas are a matriarchal society where females rule and the males follow. But I mean, if you're into that, points to you. I feel like if I were going to experience it with Elsa, it would be akin to liver for me. And this is coming from someone who likes to eat meat. I'm a carnivore, but I don't like liver. If I eat liver, I have it once, and then I wait a very, 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 very long time before I try it again. So, for that reason, I'm gonna put her in the D category. I think if I were going to try it, I'd want to go with a male hyena beast man. So, yeah, definitely each to their own. Next up, we have Extreme Lillin's Thirst Edition. Oh boy, where do I begin? So, episode 4, we see Stunk and the gang wanting to go out and experience fun with a brothel they've never been to before. On their traveling, they come to a shady alleyway, which leads them to a sign that points into the direction of a shady brothel, which basically is an all-you-can-eat Lillin buffet at a very, very low price. They follow the sign. Whoops. They follow the sign to to the shady brothel where they discover that it is basically a massive fish tank packed with various, and I mean various, hungry Lillins. Lillins, for those of you who don't know, being a very low tier succubus, very ravenous. Like they are very thirsty. Like thirst levels. Very thirsty Lillins. Very, very thirsty Lillins. So, yeah, if all this sounds too good to be true to you, that's because it is! It is too good to be true because, sorry, but it's too good to be true because the moment the gang goes in, they have to sign a waiver saying that the establishment will not be held accountable if one of them ends up dying. And the moment they get into the tank to see all the hungry Lillins, they are not allowed to get out until they have satisfied every single Lillin. And no matter how many times they cry, scream, beg, or pee, they're not getting out. And the hostess will not risk her neck for them. Do I even need to explain why I'm putting them in the F category? You need an army to satisfy them, and they will not stop until they have drained you of every last juice you have. They will suck you up like a Capri Sun, faster than a Capri Sun. And the moment Stunk and the gang return from this little excursion, they all rate it ones and zeros, and for very good reason. You need an army to satisfy them. And I know I said I would try and offer suggestions on how some of the girls on the low ranking tiers can improve themselves. I'm sorry. I wouldn't even touch them with a 99.5-foot pole. Not even if it was a bunch of male Lillins and they were paying me to go in there. No, I would not. No. That's a suicide mission. So, yeah, F category. I'm sorry. I'm not touching that. No. Anyway. Sorry. I went on a little bit of an extreme tangent there, didn't I? I'm sorry. So, next up we have Salamanders. So, the second portion, found in the second portion of episode 4, Salamanders are one of the first and only monster girls we see with an actual elemental obstacle. Now in the manga we see a reversal of this, and we actually see the gang try items that help them adapt to such elemental obstacles. But what I like about Salamanders is that they actually have a workaround for clients who are unable to go all the way with them. They will literally use their bodies like hibachi grills or griddles. So someone can have a fresh piece of grilled meat or pancakes or corn on the cob, as some of the signs offer if you watch the episode. And they can enjoy a hot meal. And for those who are fire resistant, like Krim, they can actually go all the way with them. Again, in the manga, I find it very interesting that they do end up finding items that help them, adapt to the heat, so it doesn't bother them as much or hurt them. But it's pretty creative what these salamander girls do with their body as an alternative means of service. And I mean, I'd be willing to try it at least once as someone who enjoys taking scalding hot showers. And someone who likes hot tea on cold days. So I'm putting them in the A category because they're extremely creative. Their personalities are very hot, pun intended, but they seem genuinely nice. And again, the fact that they offer alternatives for species that can't go all the way with them due to the girls being too hot to touch. So, A category for the Succubus. Next up, episode 5, we have Cyclops girls. So, Cyclops girls So the whole premise of episode 5, at least the first portion, involves a mysterious anonymous figure offering gold to Stunken the gang to review a Cyclops girl. And we already see immediately in Cyclops culture, the bigger your eye is, the more attractive you are. And girls with smaller eyes are, by their culture standards, seen as less attractive, which is pretty sad. But Sunken Zell's review of these small-eyed girls boosts their confidence up, which is pretty sweet. And the episode itself with the Cyclops session is pretty sweet. And the big-eyed girls are certainly nice. They mean well, but they have some interesting fetishes. Like one girl with a very, very big eye likes eye drops. I mean, as someone who gets itchy eyes and has to use eye drops to alleviate the itchiness of my eyes, I kind of get it, but at the same time, it's a little weird. And then some of them have a staring fetish and an eyeball licking fetish, which is weird. But I mean, as they are, Cyclopses seem like another very easy and basic choice. I'm gonna put them in the C category. C for Cyclops. They're very wholesome and very sweet. And I mean, again, pretty easy for those who are trying to figure out what they're into. Again, pretty on the monster pool. Well, Cyclopses are still on the shallow end. So, next up we have myconids, or mushroom people. Oh, whoops, ignore those sounds. The clatter sounds. But myconids are featured in the second portion of episode 5, where Zell, straight up out of nowhere, craves mushrooms. One thing leads to another, and the gang ends up going to a myconid brothel. And I love the fact that they do mention the fact that there are poisonous myconids out there. And the madam is so wise and well beyond her years that she knows just what a person wants just by looking at them. Like, oh, you're a human, you're gonna want this. You're an elf? Oh, I know what you want. Barry, here, try this on for size. The only person she gets stumped with is Krim, because she's never seen an angel before. Yet even when she makes a blind guess shot in the dark, she ends up succeeding. And I love the fact that they have variety of myconid girls. Even if we don't see the poisonous ones. But you know what? I'm going to put myconids in the D category because it would be fun to try, but unless you know what you're doing and you're able to recognize what mushroom girls are safe and what mushroom girls are poisonous, it's best to stick with a guide. So, like, I wouldn't want to try a myconid unless I had someone with me who knew the ropes, as it were. Next up, we have the Golem, or marionette episode, which is pretty amazing off the get-go. We literally have episode 6, which features golems, features the gang unable to decide where they want to go for their next review. And Mandatory Chan suggests that they review the next species that walks through the door of the Ale and Eats, the tavern which the guys frequent. And the moment she says this, a golem man walks into the Ale and Eats. And so the gang goes to a golem/puppet workshop, in which the whole premise is that you can build your ideal partner. From the body type, to the hair, to the eyes, to the clothes, and even to the personality. It's all up to you, and the only limit is your imagination. As someone who creates Monster Girl content and who is an artist and a creative person as well, can I already say how much I love that idea? However, while I do love that idea, here's the thing. And this is something Stunk and the gang find out the hard way. You can make whoever you want. Whoever you want. And the gang decides to make Midori-chan. That is extremely dangerous territory, and if you have a sense of morals, like making someone you know, and it's not them, but still. I feel like that would leave a bad taste in your mouth, but I mean, if you're a creative individual, then this brothel is perfect, because you can let your imagination run wild. The only species you can't really make in such a shop are slimes and giants, but aside from that, every other species is on the table for the most part. So the creativity and the fact that you can let your imagination really run wild, I'm putting it in the yes category, because I mean, if such a place existed in the real world, I mean, I would just build an ideal gentleman just to have a nice tea or coffee date with, like. But I mean, it's also like paradise for those who like fanboys and fangirls who want to build their ideal waifu or husbando. So I mean, that's a perfect shop in my opinion. So there's a reason why I put it in the yes category. Next up, will-o'-the-wisps. So this so the guys decide. So in the second portion of episode 6, we notice a lot of dark element creatures and monsters visiting the alien eats, and the darkness seems to be affecting Crim's morale and stamina and overall energy, making him, kind of dazed and sluggish. So the gang tries to remedy this by taking him to a place with lots of light, aka a will-o'-the-wisps brothel. Which their whole establishment, everyone is basically in the buff, but there's a bunch of light glimmers and sparkles, censoring them. And the entire brothel is just one big room with no spare rooms, as the light from the will-o'-the-wisps would blind someone if they were contained in just a small room, and there's no real sense of privacy. So, yeah. Some people may be into that, but, again, I have, my own personal tastes and preferences, and I mean, I am shy, I am modest, so I really wouldn't, I'm putting them in the E category, because I mean, each to their own, but like, if I'm gonna be doing fun and games, I want it to be done in privacy. Now, there's a way that I could see this being improved on / remedied, and this would basically be making the brothel bigger with spare rooms, and each room being the size of an opera house or an amphitheater, where it's a massive space where, oh, technical difficulties with my music, but basically, if you have a big room, then the light can spread itself out more evenly, which should reduce the effects of blindness. So that's probably something that I would insist on changing, to try and improve the will-o'-the-wisp reputation. That's something I would do at least. Next up, we have Succubus, purebred Succubus. So episode 8 features Stunk and the gang finding a quest with a very high reward, but it's a long distance quest, And so, before they go on this massive quest for the money, they decide to visit the Succubus Tower, which is a massive tower full of various rooms with succubi of every single shape and form. You can literally go into the brothel, say what you want, and they will literally have about 1, 2, 3, or 4, about 5 girls who suit your menu list, your recipe, as it were, and you can choose from any one of them to satisfy you. The only difference is there's a reason they're called succubi, as they will drain you of all your libido, as it were. So it's definitely a place where it's like you go, but then you have to take a few weeks to recover. So it's definitely another sort of, it's kind of like I mentioned it before, it's kind of like liver for me. If I were going to go to an Incubus joint, I'd do it once and then I'd wait a long, long, long time before I went again. So I'm going to put them in the D category. Now, I have an alternative. For those who wish to have the abilities of a succubi, taking on the variety of different forms, what I would suggest is as follows. Shapeshifters or mimics who can do the same thing without draining you dry. That's what I would suggest as an alternative for succubi. But as they are, sometimes if you're going on a long quest journey, it pays to, check out a succubi or an incubi if you prefer. But yeah, next up we have ghosts. Ghosts are featured in episode 8, which is the Halloween themed episode, where this count basically takes Duncanzell to a brothel he frequents because the gang has been, jonesing for their next fix, as it were. The thing with ghosts, though, is that they're intangible. You can't touch them. Had to reorganize the list. Make sure it's in order. But yeah, ghosts, you can't touch them. So, I mean, some people are into that, but I'm not, per se. I'm terribly sorry. So, I'm gonna put them in the E category. If they had a way to possess, like if they were able to be more physical, where you could, actually touch them, then I could see it being a bit more of an attractive establishment. Like perhaps, if they have magic in this realm, surely it's possible to make a ghost appear more physical, as it were. So, as they are, E category. Next up, Jiangshi. For those who don't know, Jiangshi are basically a hopping vampire, which is pretty neat on its own. On the one hand, Zell explains that you do get the taste of blood in your mouth and that they're very cold, which I mean is, unsurprising if you were, dead. You don't have a high body temperature. They're pretty cute though, and I mean, I would definitely try it at least once, so I'm going to put them in the C category. Very, very fun. I mean, if you can stomach the bloody taste, I mean, again, I'm willing to try anything once within reason, so, So, after the Jiangshi, we have vampires. The Count choosing his vampire maiden, which, according to Interspecies reviewers, vampire girls are only loyal to the vampires who turn them, so they won't serve other clients, but they're extremely beautiful and very pleasant to enjoy, according to the Count. And once again, vampires are a pretty basic monster for those who are trying to figure out what they're into. It's another pretty easy, again, pretty shallow on the end of the monster pool, but you know what? That's okay. That's okay. So, next up, give me this. Alrighty, here we go. But next up we have zombies! Yeah, zombies are definitely a gray area for many. On the one hand, they're living dead, but at the same time, they're also dead. Also, I apologize for any background noises you hear. Uh, anyway, but yeah, zombies are definitely a gray area for some people. And I can kind of understand why, because, you know, there is the potential of rot and decay. I mean, there's not in the way of trying to remedy a zombie's potential. One of the reasons why zombies are less liked is because not only are they cold and are they dead, but they stink. They smell like, you know, decaying flesh. Which again, everyone has their own preferences. What I would suggest is perhaps a way to, like, if they could preserve their body. Like, find a way to make their bodies preserved and, you know, not smelly. Maybe light a few candles and a little bit of friction, like share your body heat with them. Those are some suggestions that I would possibly use to try and, you know, warm up a zombie. And if they smell nice, then that would certainly add some points to their side, but alas, those are just theories and hypotheses. Next up we have skeletons. So, Bruce, the beast man who joins Stunk and the Zell occasionally on adventures, goes with Miss Bones, and given that he's a dog, he basically he basically chews on her bones until he can't really anymore, and he's definitely unsatisfied. And I mean, I can see why, like, whoops, I can see why there's literally nothing to, you know, you're basically just slipping your fingers through the gaps in her ribs and the gaps in her bones. If it were an Undertale situation, maybe, but I mean, as it is, like, I feel like I'd be in the same boat with Bruiser. Like, I would try a skeleton once and then probably never again. Especially if their fingernails are as sharp as we see in the in the anime, which is yeah, it sounds pretty uncomfortable. So after their spooky adventures, when they go back home to see Krim and Midori and the rest of the gang, Bruce is still unsatisfied, so he goes to his polar bear waifu, a polar bear girl named Ice. We see more of her in the manga when the gang goes up to the icy mountains to try out some ice-resistant rings. She's very fluffy, though, and very sweet. She seems like she would give good cuddles. So, I'm gonna put her in the C category. C for cold. She definitely seems very fluffy and very sweet, and definitely the type for those who like, you know, physical contact and cuddling, because I mean, she's big and she's fluffy. She's very fluffy, so I feel like that'd be like perfect cuddling material. Just let's make some hot cocoa, let's turn on some movies, and, you know, cuddle. So yeah, C category. C for cuddle. C for cute. Cuddly cuddle. I don't know. I am a very physically affectionate person, and so I really love cuddling. Cuddling and hugging and kissing, that kind of stuff. So next up, we see the magic lotion, like witch's brew. In episode 9, we see that Krim even went on his own adventure, where he went to see some magical witches who use a very special slime, and with their magic, they make it turn into whatever they see fit. So it could be a mattress, it could be handcuffs, it could literally be anything. And at the end of the fun and games, the witch will wave her wand, and the slime just turns into water that washes off of you, so you end up just feeling squeaky clean afterwards. This is another pretty great shop. So I mean, again, I'm willing to try anything once within reason, and the fact that afterwards you just feel squeaky clean and satisfied, I mean, that's a pretty perfect shop. So, you know. Next up, we have Demia, the Archmage Demia, or Decoy dolls. This is the whole plot of episode 10, in which the gang goes to the brothel with the perfect 40 score. And basically, what it boils down to is you have this mage, this woman, create a copy of herself that you get to spend 3 days of pure fun and frolics with, where you can do whatever you want to her. The key word here being whatever, provided that it is in, a secluded place, like in your room at the inn. As in the anime and the manga, she states that she got in trouble for people doing things out in public, as it were. And we're just gonna, leave it at that. So, yeah. We'll leave it at that, and the less said the better. But for 3 days, you get to have the perfect partner. You get to have the perfect partner, cook you meals. If you want to, they'll teach you magic. You can go out on a nice day on the town, or you can do what Kenchel does. Kenchel being a kind of a BDSM guy. So I mean, this mage has made the perfect shop, and even the guys, like Stunk, was like hesitating to try and like give her a 9, like a 9 or 8, but the moment he tried some of her food, he gave her a straight up 10 out of 10, because as he said, it's basically like being married to the perfect wife. And when your 3 days are up, the decoy vanishes, but when you come back to visit, the decoy that you were with returns, and she'll remember all the memories you guys had, which is pretty amazing. Like, geez. Points to her for, that is some pretty clever work there. Like, geez. If a magician did that, like a very tall, handsome magician, gentleman of sorts did that, like, I'd be all over that. I'd probably go on dates. Go to bookstores, swimming, festivals, dancing, wholesome stuff like that. I mean, that's paradise. 3 whole days of paradise. I digress. Anyway, next up we have the Energizer Incubus, who can keep going and going and going and going and going and going and going. So again, Incubus are basically the male version of Succubi, which go after women, and this in the whole first portion of episode 1 basically centers around the Incubus gentleman going to the various brothels that Stunk and the Zell gave low rates to, and giving all the girls 10 out of 10s. But the guy has come to realize that he will give any woman a 10 out of 10 because he is of the belief that all women are queens. So, listen, I know some people are not going to enjoy his princely, God among men type, personality, but I mean, he's quite charming. And he does know how to charm a girl. So I mean, I can only speak for myself, but I kind of like princely types. Like, I don't know. again, it's definitely not for everyone, and I mean, at the end of his episode, he gets stabbed by a jealous ex, but I mean, sometimes it's like that. But he doesn't end up dying. Because he only got stabbed in the heart, and incubi have 2 heart, with the second heart being located near their hips. Make of that what you will, but for what he is, again, I happen to like the charming, princely types. That happens to be one of my many types, so, each to their own, and he's handsome enough. Like, we literally see him go into the very thirsty Lillin den, and he ends up satisfying all of them. He literally ends up holding a Lillin up with his sword. So, Anyway, I rest my case. So next up, we have alcohons, or better known as leprechauns. So, so in this episode, we see Stunken and Zell get paid for their reviews, and they want to go with Krim to a brothel. But since they don't want to wait, they end up drinking themselves into a stupor, and then they end up going to a brothel where you can drink with leprechauns, and they keep pressing you to drink, and so you end up drinking until you wind up so blackout drunk that when you wake up, not only do you have a splitting hangover, but all your gold's gone too, because there's a waitress who is keeping tabs on how much you're drinking. So yeah, that's I'm putting them in the. I know some people would say wouldn't that be an F category? And to that I say, yeah, you're right, because they're taking advantage of you. But that's kind of a part of the Fae aspect and the Fae charm. Yes, leprechauns are a type of fairy. And you know what? Props to them for using their skills and their abilities to their advantage. The only one who wasn't able to fall for this trick was Krim, because apparently, as an angel, he's immune to the drunken effects of alcohol. So, props to Krim. So, I would say go to this one in moderation. Like, even if you're being pressured, just, moderation, and try and flirt with the leprechauns. And how I would suggest this to, improve it, I would probably suggest having a bit of a scavenger hunt, where if you're able to find a gold coin or a 4-leaf clover, then you're allowed an extra hour of time with your chosen leprechaun. And again, if the drinking is placed in moderation, then there's really not a problem with it. And again, if they added like the aspect of rainbows in the brothel, that would also be an interesting bonus, because again, leprechauns and rainbows tend to go hand in hand. So while it's not for everyone, and even if you do go, I would suggest using extreme caution, because they are fairies. Leprechauns are fairies, and as seen in episode 11, they will take advantage of you. So definitely take all I said with a grain of salt. Because if you're someone who cannot handle their alcohol, then this probably isn't the place for you. But I mean, again, props to them for using their fairy skills and fairy trickery. That fairy cunning, I admire that. So, next up we have demons. So, episode 10, the first segment involves Stunk and the gang going over business cards from each of the brothels that they went to, and then they realized that they didn't go to the demon brothel from episode 2, and so they decide to visit. In which case, when they arrive, they are given the absolute finest treatment, like red carpet, fine food, fine wine, the whole thing. And we see the variety that demons come in, all various shapes and sizes, and how they get their kicks is from contracts. And the reason why in the realm of interspecies reviewers they have such low ranking popularity is because of people who worded their contracts poorly. Which for example, if a guy says to a demon, "Let me make you happy forever," then he will have to spend the rest of his life making her happy while he is basically working as an indentured servant. If he says to her, "Let's make each other happy," then she will go out of her way to be an absolutely doting wife and supporting partner. Which of course there's room for a lot of loopholes, because if a guy promises a demon girl, like, let's both make each other happy, then like by the law of that contract, the demon girl in question will be a terrible mother, because the contract only said you and me be happy. It never said nothing about children. So it definitely, much like with fairies, the demon contracts fall under be careful what you wish for, and you have to be exact in what you're wording. So, yeah. It's definitely each to their own, but I mean, where I stand personally, like as a person with my faith, I wouldn't do it. Not in the slightest. So, like, I'm gonna put them in the F category. I mean, the furthest I would go is with a tiefling. Like, I like tieflings. Like, Molly Mock from Critical Role, is a very good tiefling. And, in fact, I have a tiefling in my own D&D campaign I'm running. So, yeah. So next up, we have Dream Eaters, also known as Sheep Girls. So, episode 12, it's New Year's, and the gang want to go to their favorite call girl, but all the brothels are booked in advance, so Alloway, the fairy madam, gives them a card and points them in the direction of a dream eater's brothel, which basically is essentially, as Anime America said, I dream of waifu. So you basically go to sleep and cuddle up with a sheep girl, and you can dream about your favorite call girl, and if you're not satisfied, you can even have some fun and frolics with the sheep girl. Now, this only works if you're susceptible to sleep magic. Apparently, Krim was not, and so in the manga, the sheep girl put him to sleep by other means. So, once again, it's a very creative aspect. You get to have your pleasant dreams, and if you're not satisfied, you can cuddle up with a sheep girl in real life. So that's a very creative shop, and given how creative a person can dream, like, I feel like that would lead to some pretty interesting adventures. And so for that, I'm gonna put the sheep girl in the S category. And there it is. That's my list. This is the revised tier list, now and forever. I'm no longer going back from this. But here it is. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this tier list. Again, if you think my tier list should have been different, like, I'll leave you a link in the comments below so you can see for yourself. And I mean, yeah, this was fun. I'm glad I did, and thank you all so much for watching, and thank you so much again for voting. So, yeah. I love you guys very much. You mean the world to me, and I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed revising my tier list, and yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!